Hey, we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, Jake, and today we're talking about No Rest for the Wicked. Now, this is the newest game from Moon Studios, the folks behind Ori and the Blind Forest and Will of the Wisps. Incredibly awesome games, beloved for good reasons, but their newest game here is something completely different. It's like an isometric action RPG with a different spin on a lot of elements, attempting to move the genre forward. At least that's what they say when you fire up the game. This is an early access release though. Got it on Steam for $36. It's a price reflecting this early access period because you're only getting so much. Eventually, this will be a finished, full-priced release on PC and consoles, but for now, we have this early version that is approximately the first narrative chapter of the game. And yeah, to not mince words or waste your time here, this is an early access game, and with that comes a lot of things that need fixing. Reported performance issues for many. Myself personally, I had a few things here and there I'll get to. And the game itself just needs balancing and adjustment. It's actually quite a frustrating experience in some areas, so you should know what you're buying into. I personally would wait for the finished game because the ideas on display here, the foundation, the presentation, it is so exciting. It's got a good foundation. I was so pumped for this game, and even though now I've gotten deep into this and plenty of its flaws, I'm still hopeful for a good final outcome at some point. No Rest for the Wicked has been described by many folks as like a Diablo game mixed with a Souls-like, but I kind of think it's more than that. Structurally, it's more of its own thing, but I'll start from the beginning. You create a kind of a goofily proportioned character with a very simple character creation system, and you jump into the world where you go through an intro and then like a full-length tutorial area. It'll take you like an hour or so. And then you get into the main gist of the game. You know, running around, exploring, doing quests, and combat, all that is fun. So I'll start with that. Combat is the main way you're interacting with the world, and there's a lot of promise in it. It's very slow and deliberate and chunky, more than you're used to in a kind of top-down game like this. Even with a lighter character build, striking is slow and weighty, and you're managing a brutally short stamina meter tied to dodging, blocking, parrying, and striking, so you really need to keep your wits about you. But these hits feel good. The animation of the character swinging a big axe or a sword or whatever is really cool looking, and the feedback, like whack, and the blood and all the effects just make it really, really satisfying. Now, depending on the weight of your equipment, you're either quick dodging or rolling, or if you're really heavy, you can do a kind of shove. Now, you also have a special meter that builds up from doing attacks and parrying, and you can spend that on big special attacks that you can equip, like a big forward thrust, or a magical crowd control spin, or even a little health burst. Now, cool with melee weapons, yeah, but it's also used more heavily for magic staffs and casting from those staffs, which I found pretty fun when experimenting, as well as for a ranged weapon like a bow. And with that, you can actually mess around and wield like a sword and a shield, right? But then holding the shield button allows you to block. But then if you equip a bow in that hand instead of a shield, then you have a sword for striking, and then if you hold that button, you can then access bow firing abilities. And I really like how this all plays out and how flexible it seems to be. All of your level up stats are tied to weapon proficiency and unlocking the ability to use certain weapons. So you level up, and every time you level up, you get 3 points to dump into things, and you're gonna dump points into health and stamina, of course, but then there's strength for heavier weapons, there's intelligence, there's dexterity for bows, classic RPG stuff. Now, where the combat is flawed is just stuff that I'd like to see tweaked. Reading enemy attacks is challenging because you're far away, and sometimes they're just really fast, and they're just not telegraphed very well. And getting the parry down is really, really tricky, and as you can tell from the gameplay, even hours in, I'm not very successful at it, and I tend to overdo it on the dodge. Getting a parry, though, when you do get it, it is very satisfying when you can, and you can stun an enemy and open them up for a backstab, which I found really finicky in execution. It's not as easy to pull off as it is in other games with this type of thing. There is also a little bit of stealth stealth, you can crouch and walk around and sneak up behind enemies to backstab them, but it's a really simple system. There's not much to it. There's no enemy detection meter. It's not very predictable, but it is an element I would love to see explored. If they can kind of blow out stealth a little bit more, and if I can have a dexterity stealth build, I would absolutely be totally on board for that, because the game also has a good amount of verticality. Your character can jump and climb up stuff, and there's a lot to it. You can shimmy along walls, you can jump over cliffs, and it can probably lead to a lot of cool variety in enemy encounters. But right now, with not really a full stealth system in place, it's pretty simple. Also, with that verticality, that is still very flawed, because sometimes you can't really tell where your character can jump or what they can climb up on, and with the shimmy ability, it's really hard to tell when you can actually shimmy. So it's something that's there, but it's not totally like 100% yet. And back to combat and all this stuff, where it stumbles is fighting multiple enemies. Anytime I faced off against like more than two or maybe three enemies, like it felt like a mess, and I would get staggered and stuck and killed in like 3 continuous hits. I understand I need to get better at parrying, yes, but it still felt like there was something missing with dealing with them. Maybe more crowd control attacks. I only had a few stuff that would really work, but I really think it's just something about the feel that needs to be dialed in. Something else to really handle all this, or it might just be me. I don't know. I certainly don't mind a challenge though, and this game does present one in a lot of areas. You could die really, really quickly. Now, it doesn't have a bonfire structure or anything like that, so you're going through areas trying to whittle away the enemy presence, and if you die, you just respawn. But the feeling of challenge and danger is still there. It works. What doesn't work for me is durability. There is weapon and armor and tool durability, which will degrade as you use stuff. It also degrades weapons, I think, when you use them to break open crates and barrels and stuff, which is really annoying. But the punishment of death is like a large percentage of degradation on your equipped items. So every time you die, your stuff gets more and more degraded. Some people are just against weapon durability across the board. I think there is a purpose for this type of game mechanic in certain games, but here it just feels really annoying and tedious. It's aggressive, it pops up a lot, and it kills the fun. Right now, all you can do is go back to the town blacksmith and hope you have enough money to repair everything. And with that and a very limited fast travel system, it means you can really end up Schitt's Creek a lot, and it just gets really tedious. But why it's really an issue is because the game is already challenging, and you need to experiment. You need to really learn enemy patterns and try and get down the parry feel and all that. You gotta practice, but every time you screw up, you just get screwed even harder. And I mean, the same goes for bosses. People love a hard, aggressive boss and how you have to repeat them endlessly to study and learn them, because there is that satisfaction you can get at the end of the line for like really mastering a boss battle. But here, I mean, like your stuff is just endlessly falling apart. So the stakes are higher, but they also just end up being more tedious and annoying than just a brutal challenge for the fun of it. Now, I know some people will tell me to stop crying and to just get good at the game, but here, it just feels like another balancing, tweaking early access thing, because the game needs a lot of this in other areas as well. Weight balancing for equipment loads seems kind of off. In my experience, you're either equipping heavy stuff or absolute dog shit loot if you want a lighter build. Like there's not really a lot of nuance to it yet, at least not as much as it obviously needs. The healing system needs work. It's centered around farming resources like food ingredients to craft food to eat in battle, but the way it's balanced right now is a bit tedious, and most recipes require, weirdly enough, one specific like herb type that it just feels like you never have enough of. Plus, with all this, repairing, crafting, getting food for healing, the world doesn't reset when you hit a bonfire. Like I said, it's not that type of game. Areas are cleared out for a while. You have to keep playing and like wait for a fog of war to roll in as you progress elsewhere or mess around somewhere else for a little bit in order for that area to restore some enemy types and some new treasure chests and stuff. It's a great idea in theory because like you go back and stuff is different, and I actually really learned to love that. But when you need to farm and when you need stuff and all your equipment is broken or you have no healing items and you need money to craft shit or buy ingredients, it doesn't feel right. It feels off, specifically because it just gets in the way of you playing and having fun. Also, lots of small things too, like no gear and item stats comparison. Like the menus need a bit more. You get positive and negative numbers for comparison when you're looking at loot, but I'd like a regular old full comparison screen, and I couldn't find one. Also, the quest guide is a bit bare bones, and I'd love a bit more info other than vague descriptions, and a bit more organization to it all. Also, no key bindings yet, and that is definitely going to be needed, so be aware of that if you're jumping in now. Now, I did front load this video with a lot of bad stuff because it is a tough sell, especially if you're easily frustrated, or maybe you're just not into early access games, and what comes with that. I would say this is not for you. But I really am excited to see the game get finished and have all those wrinkles ironed out and stuff because, man, there is some really great stuff here. I mean, the first thing, obviously, is the art direction and the visual style. It's not realistic. It's extremely artistic, with an almost painterly quality to it, with some impressive lighting helping amplify it all in real time. And it is unlike anything I've really ever seen in a game. Environments have such a wow factor, but it's also the characters. When you see them up close, that really blows me away. They're expressive and intriguing down to every little detail and facial expression and the performance. I really can't get enough of them, especially in some downright awesome cutscenes. But my only real question mark is how the story will feel satisfying, given you really are just kind of like feeling like a bystander to it. Some stuff happens without your character being involved or really doing anything because they're just like a silent player-created character. I hope that doesn't hurt the story, like the feel and the emotion of it, because they're cooking up some good stuff here. A land ravaged by this new plague that turns people into horrible monsters. A class of adventurers or like kind of ordained or something to fight this stuff. And that's you. A newly crowned young king trying to combat all this aggressively after the recent death of his father. And a kind of evil religious clergy clearly pulling some strings and doing some Machiavellian stuff. It's the recipe for some awesome storytelling and world with, like I said, great voice acting and presentation. And then moment-to-moment stuff in the game also feels really special. Every NPC seems to be a unique individual, and they all have their own little memorable quirks. I wanted to talk to every person. I wanted to read everything. I wanted to check out every sign and see every inch. The main castle town, Sacrament specifically, that you're in, feels massive, like staggeringly so. And it's fun to explore with like these vendors and NPCs, and there's bounty quests. There are blacksmiths to craft new weapons. There's a person who enchants your equipment or adds runes for more attacks or gems for attributes. There's someone who sells food ingredients and more. And all of this can actually be upgraded. Like when you're out in the world, you're doing a little bit of survival type stuff. Like I said before, getting ingredients for food, but you're also chopping down trees, you're digging up buried treasure, you're hitting rocks with a pickaxe to mine ore, and some of this you can take and spend to upgrade the shops and like your little rookery base around the town. Now, that base needs more, of course, like a place to heal up more easily, better storage than just that one weird community storage chest, but it's cool that you can change the world a little bit by working towards these upgrades, and they feel tangible and, useful. And again, when the combat is good, when it feels like it's firing on all cylinders and there's a good encounter in a beautifully designed level, and then you get a really cool sword after killing an enemy, that's where this game really hits. There is a good focus on the items. My inventory did fill up really, really quickly, but everything feels kind of useful, and there's not a lot of fluff. Despite the only thing, like I said, a lot of the junk equipment loot you get if you want like a lighter character build, but besides that, there is a lot of cool stuff here. Unfortunately, like I mentioned, there is also performance issues that a lot of people are facing, rough frame rates and poor optimization. There's a game that seems more demanding on hardware than it should be. But for me, my biggest problem was that I had a few crashes at points that really bummed me out. But like all of this stuff is being addressed. It is in early access, but still, you should absolutely be warned and look at Steam reviews because everybody's machine is different. I will say, if you were really excited for this game, like me, and you're still willing to roll the dice, I really think you should play up to the first boss and explore the castle town of Sacrament a little bit to get how you really feel. That first boss battle is absolutely awesome. Yes, the combat needs fine-tuning and all that stuff I complained about before, but the look of the enemy, the wind and the rain, the lightning striking, the destructible environments, the fun attacks, that challenge, all of that might click and hook you. It definitely worked for me. The world of No Rest for the Wicked is absolutely awesome. Like I said, I want to spend time in it, I want to learn about it, I want to adventure through it, I want to run around and kill stuff, hopefully, eventually with some friends sometimes, and with a lot of improvements across the board, and of course, just a full, finished, complete game. I am going to be stepping off of it for now, because to be honest, like I don't want to get too pissed off with some of the flaws and issues I mentioned and sour my experience. I'm going to wait until it gets updated more for a while, because like I said, the bones are there. The foundation is pretty awesome. It's a really promising start. Even if some of the flaws are obvious, I can very easily also see a future where this game fully, truly kicks ass. But that's a before you buy. You know how this goes. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion. And now I want to hear your opinion in the comments, because this is a nuanced one. Early access games are tricky to cover. If you were like me and you were just excited for the game and you said, screw it, let's try it either way, I'd love to know your experience. If you're waiting, or maybe you only play on console and you're looking forward to this, I want to know your opinions. Let's talk about this stuff down in the comments. We'll be down there as much as possible. But of course, if you ever want to yell at me directly, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, all the social media places, and my other YouTube channel. Just look up Jake Baldino. But as always, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.
This should have burned the island to the ground 1,000 years ago and never come back.
We've wrecked and ravaged our way across half of the oceans.